they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Look at my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track.
Another Queen Ahmadiyyah production.
Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Look at my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. Haze on the corner, they talking real loud. Spreading no lie, trying to bring me down. Enemies lurking, but I won't back away. Got a vision in my mind, I'm here to stay. Look at my crew beside me, we rise like a tide. When the storm gets rough, we ain't gonna hide. Propaganda swirling, but it won't touch me. Only love around, that's how it's gonna be. Keep moving forward, never looking back. The truth's in the power, it's an unstoppable track. In the city lights where dreams collide, we hustle through the night, fire in our stride. Whispers in the dark can't dim my glow. With rhythm in my soul, I'm ready for the show. We break the chains, rewrite the rules in this concrete jungle where nobody's fools. Unity sings louder than the lies they scheme. In the heart of the struggle, we dare to dream.
All right, Grand Rising, everyone. Thanks for tuning back in once again to the original Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur show. I'm your host, Queen Ahmadiyyah Shakur, and this is your morning wake-up call. So as you're coming in, please feel free to go ahead and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Be sure to click that notification bell and click the word all so you're notified each time the Queen Goddess goes live. All right, hello, the lovely T. Vince, I am from the UK. Lillian X, Nessa X, I'm sorry, Nessa G, Leon, Pensilola, Soul Sister, LL, Queen Amoni Huey, Gregory is here. All right, shout out to all of my loyal royals and my moderators. Okay, a shout out to my moderators because y'all know they be putting in work. And with that all being said, hey, Leon. Okay, and so anyway, with that all being said, let's get ready to get into it. But before we do, let's have a brief word from my sponsor. I see you, Anthony, Trisha. Okay, we the people, Claudette. All right, here we go. Let's get it popping.
Do not buy 12 Tribes on Earth hair growth oil and hair magic elixir unless you want super healthy, gorgeous hair that grows. They have a whole line of amazing hair growth products, including hair growth leave-in conditioner spray, hair growth shampoo, hair growth spray, and hair growth butter. I'm starting to sense a theme here. They include quality natural ingredients. They smell amazing, and you can see the results for yourself. So if you're looking for healthy hair growth for your natural or relaxed hair, try 12 Tribes on Earth today.
All right, so don't forget you can purchase 12 Tribes Hair Oil at Etsy.com. Just look for Lisa Kratz, and you can also find it at Walmart.com. And please don't forget that she sells beard oil as well. Okay, now I mixed up Nessie X and Nessa G's names. I combined them. Okay, so shout out to both of you. Hey, Cocoa Marshmallows. All right, let's get ready to get into it. So, supposedly, according to Iran, and I believe Iran before I believe the US. But Iran supposedly has captured a pilot whose plane went down. Okay, so let's get into it. Now, the US tried to rescue the pilot supposedly, excuse me, but they were unsuccessful. So Iran is saying that they have the pilot in their custody. Okay, here we go.
Let's get you started with some breaking news that's coming in from West Asia. Unconfirmed reports are now suggesting that a US pilot may have been captured by Iranian forces after he ejected from an advanced fighter jet that the IRGC says it downed over central Iran. This is what the Iranian media seems to now be reporting. We don't have independent confirmation just yet as to what exactly has transpired, but reports are suggesting that a plane went down in central Iran and a US pilot seems to have been held captive. Siddhant, my colleague, now joins us, getting us more details. Siddhant, what more can you share with us?
Well, that's right, Poonam. It's a big story. Perhaps this is what Iranian media is claiming. Tasnim news agency, closely affiliated with IRGC, claims that there has been a capture of US pilot after warplane downed in Iran. In fact, according to the correspondent of this Tasnim news agency in Western Iran, based on some information following the destruction of the advanced American fighter jet by IRGC earlier on Friday, the correspondent added that there are indications the Americans believe that the pilot might be alive, attempted to extract him from Iran's border. However, some sources say the pilot has likely been captured by Iranian forces. So here is the news report, perhaps on the basis of which we are putting out this story for our viewers. Tasnim news agency. This is the headline. Reports suggest capture of US pilot after warplane downed in Iran. Now, the US and the Israeli regime, now they say that the IRGC noted that the intruding fighter jet has been completely destroyed and crashed. The IRGC announced on Friday that the second F-35 fighter jet was destroyed in the skies of central Iran by the new advanced defense system of the IRGC Aerospace Force. It said that the doomed fighter jet belongs to the Lakenheath squadron of the US. Now, in response, the Iranian armed forces have carried out retaliatory operations targeting American Israeli positions. So once again, on the basis of this news report, we are putting out this story for our viewers. Big development, if true. This story says that Iranians have captured US pilot. There was F-35, which was targeted by Iranian, flying over the Iranian skies. And after this jet was down, the pilot has been captured. This is what local correspondent of Tasnim news agency is reporting. So a huge development. Perhaps, Poonam, if true, this could change the entire conflict, perhaps, in a very different direction. And perhaps could be for the first time that Iran is capturing the US pilot by shooting F-35.
Now, there are several other reports that are also coming in, Siddhant, which claim that there were certain attempts that were made to rescue the pilot as well. But that attempt by the United States has failed. The Americans have been conducting search operations for hours, allegedly, using Black Hawk helicopters. That is what some of the reports are suggesting. But all of those attempts seem to have gone in vain.
Well, that's right, Poonam. In fact, a short while back, we did manage to pull out those footages and pictures of F-35's debris. Perhaps that's what Iranian have been saying since afternoon. In fact, here in India also, the Iranian missions are publishing those pictures on their social media platforms, claiming that F-35 is down. And we cannot independently do the assessment on the basis of the debris. That's what the Iranians are claiming. Now, it's a fresh development in the story. The Iran's semi-official news agency Tasnim, which works closely in association with IRGC, claims, in fact, their their correspondent claims that there are some reports that pilot is missing. He has been captured by the Iranian forces. In fact, there has also been an attempt to extract this pilot from the borders of Iran. There have been many attempts made by United States, but still pilot is in Iranian custody. Perhaps let's wait for more details. Let's not be speculative about this story. As I said, that we are reporting this story on the basis of this report published in Tasneem news agency. Back to you, Poonam.
Right. Details of this are still sketchy, and all we have information from is from the Iranian side. Nothing so far from the American side, Siddhant. But there is a claim that is being made on the Iranian media as well that in the last 24 hours itself, there have been 2 such US jets that have been shot down by them.
Well, that's right. So this week only, there was a jet which was shot down by the Iranians, reportedly shot down by the Iranians. In fact, there was no response from the United States. All we could get from the US media was that the pilot of that F-35 was injured, and that was a shrapnel injury, perhaps according to some reports. We have nothing beyond that. So, earlier also United States never confirmed that F-35 is down. And this time around, perhaps let's wait, because if these pictures are of American F-35, and going by what Tasneem news agency is reporting, the pilot is missing, captured by the Iranians. Americans are trying to extract him. So this, Poonam, this is what I was referring to. This afternoon, Iranian embassy here in New Delhi posted these pictures of the debris of F-35. Perhaps that's what they say, that this is F-35 pictures fell in Iran. This plane was flying over the skies in Iran, and this plane was shot down by the aerospace defense systems of Iran. But now what we are getting to know is that that there is the pilot couldn't eject, and perhaps pilot got ejected and is now in Iranian custody. Americans are trying to extract him. As I said, we are reporting on the basis of what the Tasneem news agency is reporting. The debris, perhaps, Poonam, looks like of U.S. aircraft. Some reports also say that it's not F-35. It could be F-15, etc., etc. Yes. Those claims are also being made on social media. As I said, that we are reporting this story on the basis of what the pictures put out by the Iran embassy here in New Delhi, and also by what Tasneem news agency is reporting. So it's huge, Poonam. If this is true, this could change perhaps the path of this conflict. If US pilot is in Iranian custody, and also will give Iran more leverage in this entire conflict.
Okay, with that all being said, I agree with him. He said that this gives Iran more leverage. It absolutely does. And you know what I was thinking? Iran said they were going to kill those soldiers if they did the ground invasion. Rather than kill them during the ground invasion, they should hold them hostage. Okay? If they capture them, they should not kill them. They should hold them hostage. Okay? And demand that the U.S. and BB's people stop this war. Bring it to an end. Okay? That's what they should do, in my opinion. Now, what do y'all think? And so anyway, Pensilola says, our exodus, stay with it, family. Okay? Thank you, beloved, and thank you for your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Let me tell y'all something. There's really no way for the U.S. and BB's people to win as far as the eye can see, because Iran, these people are not afraid of death. Okay, now, it has come to my attention that they put a hit out on Abbas Arakji. Okay, they put a hit out on him, supposedly. Let's go to what he said after he found this out. Okay, hold on. Let me just pull up the receipt real quick. And in the meantime, likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. for your participation and cooperation. Now, y'all know it doesn't cost anything to like this video. Okay. Lovely T says, I agree. Okay. Pensilola says, exactly, Queen. Right. They just said, yes, make it stop. Okay. Claudette also agrees. Exactly. That's what they need to do. Snatch them up if they dare to come there on a ground invasion. Snatch up a few of them. Okay. At least 50 to 100 if you can. And then demand that the U.S. and Bibi's people put an end to this or else. All right. And that's where we're really going to see what Trump and Bibi's going to do. Because if they dared to risk the lives of that many soldiers just to keep on being hateful and nefarious, well, I don't think the world, specifically the U.S., is going to look at them any favorably. Okay? So let's go to this clip. Oh no, before we go to the clip, I almost forgot. Let's go to what Abbas Arakchi had to say about the threats on his life. Okay, here it is right here. It says, Israel backed off killing Iran's Arakchi Qualibaf at Pakistani U.S. request. Oh, so they backed off. Okay, didn't see that part, but here's what he says. After receiving assassination threats from Israel and the United States, Arakchi said, now listen to this. He said, your threats are beneath our feet. If we feared death, we would not have entered this war, nor would we have offered our finest men as martyrs. Death is an honor for us as we defend our homeland, better than dying subjugated to you with our homeland under your guardianship and rule. We were born free and we will die free. We will not submit to child rapists, blood merchants, and oppressive rulers. Ooh, honey, did y'all hear it? Did y'all hear what this man said? Honey, he went in on them. And see, this is why the U.S. can't possibly win. And this man meant every word that he said. And you know that he does. Okay? And you know that he does. The United States needs to sit down somewhere, okay? That's what they need to do, and so does Bibi. I mean, it's just not looking good. It is just not looking good. And there's a bunch of, let me just show you all a bunch of these memes because people are really going. Durana said he said what he said, period. Okay? Nene said Trump's folks aren't dealing with brave warriors. Well, we already know the IDF doesn't have brave warriors because they've been throwing down their weapons, begging and crying and groveling, okay, like little children, asking to be able to leave. But they didn't have that same energy when they were doing what they were doing to the Palestinians over there in Gaza. Now, did they? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Now, before I get to the next clip, let's go. I should have shown you all this before I clicked off of it, but let's go to some of these memes that people are making. Okay, because I find them all entertaining. See this? Tel Aviv forecast. Ah, nothing but missiles in the skies for y'all. Okay, please pay attention. People are saying they stand with Iran. Okay, this says America and Israel led by Satan Yahoo, the child-killing Zionist criminal terrorist in Trump, the stupid terrorist gambler, are a clear example of state terrorism. And as long as these two terrorist war criminals are alive, war, bloodshed, and terrorism seriously threaten humanity. This is what somebody said. Okay, please pay attention. People are going in on them, as I told you. Okay, look at this. Danger to the world. Hey, America, what do we do? What do we ever do to you? Then it has 1979 hostage crisis, 1983 Marine barracks bombing, 241 dead, 1984 U.S. embassy bombing, 1996 Khobar Towers bombing, 19 dead, 2003 to 2011 Iran-backed attacks on U.S. troops in Iraq, 2007 Kabbalah raid, 5 Americans dead, and then 2020 missile strike on U.S. base. But why was this all done? Okay, why was this all done? Who was always the aggressor? I'm sorry, the Americans? I absolutely believe so. Now, and here's what they say. This one says, this is from Proud Nation of Iran. It is a mistake for Trump and Satan Yahoo to think they can make us bow or defeat us. The Iranian nation will fight. And unlike them, we do not fear death. Martyrdom is something only the fortunate receive. These people themselves are the ones who fear death. Okay, I'm sorry. How do you match that? You know, a wise man told me long ago, and in fact, it was one of my good friends, one of my college friends' father. He told us to never go to battle with someone who feels they have nothing to lose, because they will kill you with a smile. Okay? They will kill you with a smile. Okay, so please pay attention. Now, here we have a list of countries bombed by the United States since 1945. Okay, Japan, Germany, China. They bombed China 1, 2, 3 times. Okay, Guatemala, Indonesia, Cuba, Laos, Vietnam, Cambodia, Lebanon, Libya, Iran, in 1987 to 1988. Nicaragua, Iraq, Kuwait, Iraq again, Somalia, Bosnia, and Herzegovina, Iraq again, Sudan, Afghanistan, Iraq, Yugoslavia, and Serbia, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Somalia, Iraq, Yemen, Iraq, Syria, Libya, Yemen, Iran, Somalia, Syria, Nigeria, Venezuela, Iran. Okay? I'm sorry. What's really going on here? If given the choice, Iranians would rather die than live without freedom. Well, we can see who's bowing down to them, that's for sure. Okay, so now that I've been said, let's get into the rest of these receipts. Likes up, everyone, please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance. Okay, they say high time to say Iran has won. Shocking demand in Iran amid mass U.S. casualties report. Mass U.S. casualties. I want you all to pay attention. Okay. Oh, right, Nene. Nene said they forgot Tulsa and Philadelphia. Exactly. Bombing their own people. Honey, let me tell you something. Black people should never stand with the United States when they're engaged in war crimes and nefariousness, because they've actually committed the same upon us, period. Okay? Upon their own citizens. But pay attention. They have the audacity to try to say something about how Iran treats its citizens. They've literally bombed and murdered Black folk and then don't want to give us reparations. And here's the thing. Let me tell you all something. When Black people are talking about reparations, we really need to stop. And I've told you all this many times. We really need to stop acting as though we only deserve reparations for slavery. No, not just for slavery. What about all the other BS they have done to us? Police brutality, the bombing of our churches by the Klan, murderings and lynchings, okay? Hate crimes in general, okay? How about redlining? How about black codes, okay? Please. There are a myriad of things that they owe us reparations for, but we'll likely never get them, you know? So as far as I'm concerned, it is what it is, as far as this war is concerned. All right, so let's get into it.
Foreign Minister Javad Zarif has made a shocking claim and urged Iran to declare victory in the ongoing war with Israel and the United States. That is the stunning message coming from a man who once led Tehran's most critical negotiations with the West. In a dramatic intervention, Zarif is now calling for a strategic pivot, not escalation, not retaliation, but a calculated exit. In an article published in Foreign Affairs, he outlines a clear roadmap, one designed to end the conflict with the United States and Israel on terms he believes would still favor Iran. His first proposal is bold. Iran should offer limits on its nuclear program. In exchange, all sanctions must be lifted.
EVE Online is a
This is a major shift because similar proposals were rejected in the past, but Zarif believes the current war has changed the dynamics. He also suggests reopening the Strait of Hormuz, a move that could immediately stabilize global oil markets. But perhaps the most striking idea is this: a mutual non-aggression pact between Iran and the United States. A commitment from both sides: no future strikes, no direct confrontation. Think about the scale of that proposal. After weeks of missile exchanges, drone attacks, and rising regional instability, Zarif is calling for a complete reset. He goes even further, suggesting economic cooperation between Tehran and Washington, trade, engagement, a shift from hostility to mutual benefit. According to him, such a deal would allow Iran to focus inward, on development, on stability, on improving.
Okay, that's not going to happen. We know that is absolutely not going to happen. Okay, and why isn't it going to happen? Well, because Iran doesn't trust the U.S. So there's not going to be any talks of them, coming to some resolution. I just don't see it happening because they don't trust them. Nini says reparations is for slavery and all the general systemic oppression that followed. It does account for all of that, Queen. No, it doesn't. And here's the problem. When we are talking about reparations, people are only talking about slavery for the most part. That's why they keep telling us, y'all were not slaves. There's nobody alive who was a slave. That's why they keep saying that. Because when Black people are asking for reparations, they're asking about slavery. Okay? Just like that vote they had the other day. They talked about slavery being the worst human atrocity, and it is. Chattel slavery absolutely was. Okay, but that's not the only atrocity. See, they can't make excuses. Okay, they can sit there and try to say, oh, the U.S. isn't the only ones who had slaves. They can easily say that, or they can say none of you all were slaves, knowing good and well that they're still to this day profiting off of the money they made off of slavery from their ancestors and ours, or that their ancestors made off of our ancestors. Okay, so my thing is, what I'm saying is, when we are asking for reparations, we should also bring up all the other things like Jim Crow, redlining, all these other things, because there's no excuse for that. Okay, there's no excuse for that. They can't say things like, oh, you weren't alive when this happened. Oh, you've never been redlined. Oh, you never lived through black codes. Oh, you didn't know about Jim Crow. They can't say that. Okay, the fight for civil rights and all of that, the fact that we had to fight for it, that all of that should be the talking points, not just talking about slavery and focusing on slavery. Okay. Now, Donna says those proposals are compromises for Iran to agree to do. Right. We the people said that's why it's lineage-based compensation. Well, of course, absolutely. Nini said Ado's reparations argument is focused on all of the things you mentioned. Yvette Carnell got it right. Well, I haven't heard from Yvette Carnell in years. Okay, I don't know if she's still trying to get reparations, but I haven't heard from her. But and even if she is, that's not what everybody is doing. Because the biggest and the loudest person that's talking about reparations is not talking about those things. Okay, Yvette Carnell has faded into the background. Okay, so the people who are leading the charge and in the forefront, that's what they should be talking about. That's my point. And that's what we all should be talking about. But we all are not. Okay, we all are not. Ashkan says supposedly Iran shot down a F-15 and they're looking for the pilots now. They being everyone. Well, supposedly a pilot has been captured, beloved. I just showed the report where they said that a pilot has been captured. Okay. Now let's go to reporter Gentaka reporter, okay, because he has some more information on this. Likes up, everyone, please, a like and share. And then somebody just said Yvette got exposed as a fraud. Okay, I see. That's what I'm talking about. Like, that's why I haven't heard anything about her in a couple of years at least. I'm just saying. Now, with that all being said, let's go to this report.
That show just how brutally Iran is humiliating the collective might of the US and the illegal settler colony. And this explains why these two rogue entities have been bombing hospitals, schools, and bridges in Iran in their sheer frustration. If you can't defeat Iran militarily, then let's bomb their civilian population and kill everyone there. This seems to be the new mantra of the cowards from the US and the settler colony. So much for the two best armies in the world. So thug Pete Hegseth has sacked his army chief right in the middle of a war, and Iran has destroyed one more F-15 fighter jet and even released the video of his shooting. But Iran is losing the war, says Israeli lapdog Donald Trump. This would be the broad focus of my video today. Also in my video, how Iranians, expats are now returning home to stand with their country. So please stay tuned. So the Donald Trump's administration has sacked its army chief. Yes, you heard it right. US Army Chief of Staff Randy George was fired on Thursday by Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. Now you tell me, under what circumstances would a country fire its army chief right in the middle of a raging war? Unless, of course, you are either being hammered by your enemy or the general in question has refused to follow your illegal orders, or both. No sane general would agree to make his soldiers cannon fodder to satisfy the genocidal urge of his rogue leader. That's
Gosh, God, you're right. Okay, I really need to find another overlay for these videos. Let's continue.
precisely what appears to have happened in this case. I'm sure the general himself would like to tell his story at some point, but either way, this is a public confession of a humiliating defeat by the US military. Latest reports say that Hegseth has also fired two more generals, namely General David Horton and Major General William Green Jr. And if this wasn't enough, the Iranian military released this video claiming to have shot down another American fighter jet. As it emerged, the fighter jet in question was an American F-15. This is the second major blow to the US Air Force after the Iranian destroyed an F-35 fighter jet. On this occasion, however, the pilot too is reported to have been killed. But Trump and his minions would tell you that they have decimated the Iranian military and their missile power. These facts from the ground aside, even the American media is now broadcasting the truth on the Iranian military. This is CNN reporting how half of Iranians' missile launchers are still intact despite indiscriminate bombings by the US and Israeli terrorists for over a month now.
We have some breaking news for you tonight with a CNN exclusive report, as sources are telling us here tonight that recent U.S. intelligence assessments found roughly half of Iran's missile launchers are still intact, and that thousands of one-way attack drones are still in Iran's arsenal tonight. That's despite daily U.S. and Israeli airstrikes that we've seen against Iranian military targets for the past 5 weeks. And I should note, this assessment that my colleagues are reporting on tonight might include launchers that are currently inaccessible, such as those that are buried by strikes or not just completely destroyed. The intelligence, though, does offer a more nuanced picture that we're getting of Iran's capabilities that they still have right now than what we have heard from the White House since the beginning of this war.
There's also disquiet amongst the US military generals over the Trump administration's desperation to hide its fatalities. Iran has repeatedly claimed to inflict heavy losses on the US military personnel in the ongoing war. But the US always denied these claims and only acknowledged the deaths of 13 personnel. But a New York-based media outlet, Intercept, has accused the US administration of a cover-up, saying that hundreds of US personnel have been killed or injured in the region since Trump and his war criminal Israeli boss launched their illegal military aggression on 28th of February. And try and see the recent sackings of top army generals by Hegseth in this context now. Which upright general would remain silent in such a situation? Watch this broadcast by Fox on how Trump is busy purging the Pentagon.
And we're back. So we have two ousters today, this time from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. He has asked Army Chief of Staff General Randy George to leave his post. George is the Army's most senior general. A defense official says Hegseth asked General George to retire immediately. Now, the ouster comes as the U.S., of course, is battling Iran. Joining me now is Hal Kempfert, a familiar face around here, and on Live Now, a national security analyst, also a retired U.S. Marine. Thank you, and thank you for your service. Let's just get your reaction to this. Is this really?
Listen, let me tell you all something. I just thought about, okay, so there's a report that I'm going to show you in a few minutes. It is from Ben Masalis from Midas Touch. I believe that's who reported it, saying something about the White House or Susie Wiles, right? It's saying that Susie Wiles basically told Trump to stop lying. Okay, so maybe that's why CNN reported the truth for once. Okay, please pay attention.
Really a big deal?
Well, Marla, it's a deal. I mean, normally when you become a service chief or a chairman of the Joint Chiefs or the vice chair, normally those are 4-year terms. That is not set in stone. That can change, and certainly we've seen a lot of changes. You know, with Pete Hegseth as Secretary of War or Secretary of Defense, he's removed about a dozen flag and general officers. Of course, you may recall he removed C.Q. Brown, Air Force General, who was the chairman of the Joint Chiefs when he came in. He also, Lisa Franchetti, who was the CNO, Admiral, head of the Navy, Chief of Naval Operations. And then, of course, General Cruz, Lieutenant General Cruz, head of DIA, and others have been removed as well. So they're not afraid of removing flag and general officers, but this is still a big deal.
Even former military personnel are now openly calling out the criminality of Trump. Listen to this former U.S. Army colonel on Sky News Australia and pay attention to her choice of words for Trump and the U.S. administration.
Let's get back to our top story now. And these are the continuing developments, the troubling developments out of Iran, which is, as we know, showing no sign of slowing down. Joining us live now, the former US Army Colonel, State Department official Anne Wright. She's there with us. Anne, thanks for your time this morning. So the war's ending. Now it's going back to the Stone Ages. Where do you think we are at this hour?
Well, I think it's a pretty stupid thing that Trump and this administration has done to blow up a country like Iran. They say thousands. I think it's 7,000 missile attacks on Iran. Supposedly, the danger from Iran was coming from its potential nuclear weapons. Of course, the Iranians have said they would never, ever have a nuclear weapon, and they haven't so far. Trump, in his first administration, threw out the JCPOA, and then now following the lead of Israel, where the U.S. now is the lapdog of Israel, the United States have mounted a horrific set of attacks, 30 days of attacks on Iran. And sadly, I think the U.S. will pay for this in many, many ways.
Iran was certainly heading towards nuclear, though. Isn't the world safer and better off with that taken out of the picture?
Well, it always has had this nuclear program, and it was under inspection and observation through the JCPOA that Trump threw away.
Now, let me say this. Pensacola said, don't be paranoid. Now, BT. Okay? Thank you for your insight to the topic, beloved, and your contribution to the channel. I appreciate you. Peace, love, and blessings. Now, let me just remind you all that at the end of the day, she's talking about how Iran had said they would never use nuclear weapons or whatever. I told you all that. The former Iranian Supreme Leader, Ali Khamenei, said himself, he long maintained that producing and using nuclear weapons is forbidden under Islamic law. Okay, he frequently cited a religious edict or fatwa, declaring that Iran does not seek nuclear weapons for religious, rational, and strategic reasons. So I'm so sick of them trying to act like they were the threat, like Iran is the threat, when we know now As I reported to you all yesterday, for those who missed it, we now know about Bibi Netanyahu's Samson option. Okay, so let me just remind you all of it, because the threat is Bibi Netanyahu. The Samson option is a term coined to describe Israel's alleged strategy of employing massive nuclear retaliation as a last resort if the nation faces existential destruction. Named after the biblical figure Samson, who brought down a temple on himself and his enemies. It acts as a doomsday deterrent designed to prevent Israel's defeat. Okay? I'm sorry. How is this not a threat? How is this not a threat? Like, this is openly their doctrine. Okay? And they even have a book about it that was written by journalist Seymour Hersh in 1991, titled The Samson Option. It represents a "if we go down, we take you down with us" policy intended to ensure survival or exact ultimate revenge. Okay, but not just on who they're fighting against. You see, the reason it was deemed as controversial and received criticism, but clearly not enough from the U.S., is because the strategy is deeply rooted in a never again approach to that incident that happened in 1945 by a man whose name is Adolf, emphasizing that they will not perish quietly. Others, however, criticize it as a catastrophic scenario that could lead to global nuclear escalation. Now, the concept is often mentioned, listen to this, in discussions about regional conflicts, such as the tensions between Israel and Iran. Okay, now didn't I tell you all that I feared that Netanyahu would try to come with something like that for Iran because of the fact that they're losing so pathetically? And you see, this is absolutely why, if and when those U.S. troops hit the ground, boots on the ground in Iran, they should absolutely be taken as hostages, not killed. Take them as hostages so that you have leverage, okay? That's what they need to do, in my opinion. That's right. Michael M. said the nuclear weapon talk is coming from Bibi. Exactly. It's coming from inside the house. But Trump wants to ignore that and act like Iran is the threat, like they're the terrorists. Please miss me with it. Okay, but let's continue.
And nuclear inspectors had been back into it. There was no evidence that there was a movement toward nuclear weapons, but of course you always have to wonder that. And one would say, if you don't want to be attacked by the United States, you ought to have nuclear weapons, which is a sad state of affairs for that to be the world diplomacy, and for the peace president of the United States now to have severely damaged the civilian infrastructure of Iran, a country, Trump said we're bombing it back to the Stone Age. Well, in the Stone Age, there was a vibrant society in Iran where there was no society to speak of other than the Stone Age and many other parts of the world.
Interestingly, Iran has intensified its attacks on the American targets in the Arab world and also in the settler colony. Iran has claimed to destroy an Oracle data center in Dubai and an Amazon cloud computing center in Bahrain. The Dubai government has denied the claims on the bombing of the Oracle data center, but has not provided any evidence to support its claim. The IRGC's Khatamul Anbiya Brigade also released a video of the UAE's largest AI data center and its exact location, threatening to bomb it next. Now, this is next-level military maneuvering on the precise location of such a hugely important target.
در صورت عملی شدن تهدیدات آمریکا در خصوص نیروگاه‌های ایران بلافاصله اقدامات تنبیهی انجام خواهد شد. همه نیروگاه‌های برق، زیرساخت‌های انرژی و فناوری اطلاعات رژیم صهیونیستی و شرکت‌های مشابه در منطقه که سهامدار آمریکایی دارند به طور کامل تخریب خواهند شد.
Last night, the IRGC in Iran, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and the Houthis in Yemen coordinated their missile attacks against the settler colony. And boy, the result was simply breathtaking. It was as if there was no resistance from the Israelis in the sky. One video captured the moment when a powerful ballistic missile struck Tel Aviv. Another video captured the moment when nearly a dozen interceptor Israeli missiles failed to stop one Iranian ballistic missile from hitting its target. Al Jazeera later broadcast the devastation caused by these missile attacks.
Iran continues to fire missiles towards Israel. A ballistic missile hit Petah Tikva in central Israel on Thursday evening, bypassing air defense systems. It landed between a residential neighborhood and the city's industrial zone, causing a large crater. The shockwave damaged nearby buildings. Neda Ibrahim is live for us in Ramallah in the occupied West Bank. Neda, give us an update on what's been happening in Israel overnight and into this morning.
Well, the most of the pressure that has been coming into Israel was targeted and focused from the side of Hezbollah, firing rockets and drones into northern Israel mostly. As you mentioned there, this Iranian missile has caused damage in the areas of greater Tel Aviv, caused panic, a large crater, but also severe damage to properties and buildings.
I will leave you with two videos of Iranian resilience. In the first video, an Iranian couple returns home from England, where the family owned a restaurant. This family now says that they would rather die in their own country. Another video is about two Iranian girls explain why Israeli terrorists deliberately target places of historical significance. While the first video would make you emotional, the second video would definitely bring a smile on your face.
نمیترسی که جنگ شده الان به برگردید؟ اگه الان نیاین خیلی بیان همسرتون هستن؟ بهتر نبود میموندین یه مدت تا حالا جنگ تمام بشه بعد بمونم چیکار کنم؟ پیش خانواده‌ام بمیرم خیلی قشنگ‌تره تا قربت کنم. شغلتون چیه اونجا تو لندن؟ من یه کارتنم فسیل دارم تا خبر آینده ایران.
میدونین درد کجاست؟ اینکه اونا به اماکن تاریخی ما حمله میکنن ولی ما نمیتونیم حمله کنیم چون اصلا اماکن تاریخی ندارم. بابا حاج آقا جنتی و عمرش از اونا بیشتره. سلامت.
That's it from me. Thank you very much for your support of this platform and our journalism. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please do so, because that's one of the many ways you can support.
Okay, shout out to Gentica reporter. Okay, he does a very good job. Now, let's go to Donald Trump warning Iran to make a deal after the U.S. allegedly attacks 3 bridges. That's what it says. Listen, Trump, please sit down. Okay, they have already said on yesterday that you striking down bridges is not going to make them surrender. Okay, what doesn't he get? Now, the real reason Trump keeps telling them to go ahead and strike a deal is because that's what he wants to do. He's desperate. Okay, he's desperate. He knows it's only a matter of time before the entire truth of the casualties comes out. He knows it. Okay, please pay attention. He knows it.
As the war in Iran intensifies, officials with Iranian media report dozens of deaths and injuries. Meanwhile, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth calling out several Army generals. Here's ABC's Olivia Rubin.
Overnight, President Trump with this new threat to Iran, saying the U.S. military, quote, hasn't even started destroying what's left in Iran, adding bridges next, then electric power plants. Trump's vow to escalate coming after he told the American people the war was already won, but offering no clear timeline on when it would end.
Our enemies are losing in America, as it has been for 5 years under my presidency, is winning, and now winning bigger than ever before.
And in a new interview with Time magazine, Trump saying the U.S. blew up 3 Iranian bridges, sharing this video on his social media, smoke billowing into the sky, while warning Iran to, quote, make a deal before it's too late. Iran's foreign minister earlier posting, striking civilian structures, including unfinished bridges, will not compel Iranians to surrender. Iran's semi-official Fars news agency saying at least 8 civilians were killed and 95 injured in a U.S.-Israeli attack on a bridge near Tehran. And now a major shakeup within the military. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth forcing out the Army's top officer, Chief of Staff General Randy George. Sources say Hegseth also firing 2 more Army generals. Hegseth has now fired or sidelined more than a dozen admirals or generals.
And since Trump's speech, oil closing at the highest level since the start of the war, the 11% spike was the largest one-day increase since the spring of 2020. Olivia Rubin, ABC News, Washington.
El mejor estado para vivir en este momento es Georgia. Y nadie está hablando de esto.
Okay, I'm sorry, beloveds. Please bear with me. I was multitasking. Okay, I was looking at this video. I'm going to show you all this in a second because this came out just minutes ago from Colonel Douglas McGregor. Okay. A disaster unfolds as U.S. forces deployed on ground face deadly ambush risk. Okay, but before we get to that, let me just tell you all this. Now, I've told you all, and you should know that Iran was formerly Persia. And see, here's why Satan Yahoo is so hell-bent on trying to finish Iran, which he's clearly doing a poor job of, because the Persian Empire conquered the land of Israel. Okay, then it was known as Judah. All right? And also, Persia once ruled the world. Okay, Bibi, please stop it while you're ahead. All right, please quit while you're ahead. Cut your losses now and just pack it up and go back to what's left of Tel Aviv, if you know what's good. Okay, please make it all make sense. Now, we're going to go to this clip from Colonel Douglas MacArthur, or McGregor, I'm sorry.
I'm Judge Andrew Napolitano here for Judging Freedom. Today is Thursday, April 2nd, 2026. Colonel Douglas McGregor joins us now. Colonel McGregor, a pleasure, my dear friend. Thank you for accommodating my schedule. Before we get to your analysis of the likelihood of a successful ground invasion in parts of Iran, I know there was some fake news out there yesterday about American officers killed in the UAE, but without addressing that, is it likely that more Americans have been injured or killed than we know about?
Yes, I don't think there's any question about that. Now, are they mostly ground personnel, people at the various bases that are being attacked and destroyed? I suspect that's the case. I was a little surprised that we had anybody left at the bases in the Persian Gulf, but it turns out we had quite a number there. So I think the answer is yes. And I think we're going to see more. And how many and how badly are they wounded and how many were killed? These numbers are kept very close hold right at the moment. We're just
wow. It's almost like an IDF level of censorship in Israel that the Pentagon doesn't tell us how many of its own Americans have been injured.
No, I think so. But to be frank, we've gone through this before during World War I when we fought for only 110 days and we had 1,000 dead in every battle, which is staggering if you stop to think about it.
Yeah.
And 110,000 dead in only 110 days. That was held back. They slow rolled the casualties. We slow rolled them again during the European campaign in particular. So governments do this. This is not unique to the Trump government.
All right. Got it. You just indicated that you were surprised at the level of military personnel still present at American military bases in the Gulf. What purpose do those bases serve?
Well, that's a good question. We've had those. We essentially stepped into the shoes of the British Empire when the British finally withdrew in the 60s from the Persian Gulf. And we began this process really under President Carter of building up a capability there. And that was largely in response to what we thought was the Soviet threat from Afghanistan. We thought that the Soviets were ultimately interested in seizing the Persian Gulf. That was, by the way, an Israeli argument, and we responded to it by building bases. That wasn't the case, but it doesn't matter. We kept the bases, and effectively, this seemed to satisfy the interests of the Emirates. And the Emirates that line the area all were interested in having U.S. bases on the assumption that we would protect them, regardless of what happened. And they became increasingly sensitive because of Iran. Turns out we can't protect them. And that's this hard lesson that I think everybody in the region has learned.
But your understanding is that we have not evacuated these bases. We are still there.
Well, we have reports of soldiers that are assigned to these bases, and they may be airmen too, maybe some naval personnel who moved into civilian areas. In other words, gone into the basements of apartment buildings and so forth because their bases were seriously attacked. People were killed, wounded. And that's not a long-term solution. I think, Judge, this falls into the category of having grossly underestimated the Iranian capability.
Right.
If we had accurately assessed it, then I think we would have gotten everybody out of the area.
The 10,000 ground troops, we'll get to the ground troops in a minute, their purpose and their mission, but where are they? These guys and women that have come from the U.S. in the past 2 weeks, the infantry and the Marines, are they at these U.S. bases?
No, not that I'm aware of. Now, they may have some individuals that have infiltrated to look at areas from which they could stage operations. That's eminently possible. And if you're going to stage an operation, you're looking at places like the UAE or Kuwait or Bahrain. But right now, we know that the latest group of Marines that came out went down to Diego Garcia. And the problem for us at the moment is that the fleet itself, our naval forces, have to be far enough away that they are not at risk of being targeted and sunk. Let's put it bluntly. So you're hundreds of miles away from the entrance to the Persian Gulf. So the real question is, if you're that many miles away, how do you get individual soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines into the Persian Gulf region? Well, you've got to fly. And how do you fly them in? And how do you get the aircraft that are going to fly them around the Persian Gulf in there? Remember, the big problem that we confront, and this was something that I think we underestimated, is that the Iranians can see all the time. In other words, we call it persistent surveillance. They can see everything all the time inside their own country, as well as at least 1,000 miles beyond their borders. So it's very hard to fool someone or surprise someone under those circumstances. And they have access to Russian and Chinese satellite-based intelligence collection. They can also utilize that intelligence collection to listen to what people are saying on the ground. I know that shocks people, but it's absolutely a real capability. So if you're a lieutenant colonel giving instructions to a captain and you're standing near the shores in the Persian Gulf, the satellite could probably listen to your conversation. So this is a very challenging, very dangerous environment.
Colonel, did President Trump's speech to the nation last night persuade you to accept the thinking behind the invasion, the wisdom, if there is any, behind the invasion of Iran?
No, I mean,
did he make the case for war?
I don't think so. But what he did is he read from Mr. Netanyahu's talking points, the same sort of trope that we've been listening to for years about Iran, the state sponsor of terrorism, the most evil state on the planet, the worst people we've ever seen, terrible people, and so forth. I think a lot of people have heard this.
Okay, isn't that exactly what I told you all, beloveds? I said, listen to what Trump is saying. He's mimicking or repeating Satan Yahu's rhetoric. It's exactly what he's doing.
And there are still people that are willingly believing it. But if you look at the track record, it's not the top state sponsor of terrorism by any stretch of the imagination. It hasn't been a terrorist state for a very long time. And he boasted about having approved the killing of General Soleimani. General Soleimani was helpful to us in Iraq in 2006, 2007 by brokering agreements with the Shiite Arabs in the country and getting them to stop fighting. And at the same time, they took Muqtada al-Sadr, who's a very prominent figure in Iraq and a Shiite cleric, brought him to Qom in Iran and said, "You're going to study theology, shut up, get in the corner, study theology. We'll let you know when you can come back." And then subsequently, his militias, Shiite militias, were instrumental in helping to crush ISIS. I know that we've had our hands in that on every conceivable side, but they did a lot of good work, and they rescued large numbers of non-Shiite Muslims, including Christians and Druze and others. So, this one-sided Israeli perspective that is force-fed to us on a daily basis was just repeated by Donald Trump. It's inaccurate, and it's devastating. It doesn't help us. And I think the thing that capped it off, that frightened and upset and angered people all over the world, was his assertion, well, we'll bomb them into the Stone Age back to where they belong. And this was sort of incomprehensible to people. Even at the height of some of the more terrible wars in which we've been engaged, no commander-in-chief, no president of the United States has ever uttered these kinds of phrases.
I mean, this was General Curtis LeMay at his worst. And you're right, I've never heard of a president pick up on that. Facially, it would be a war crime to bomb a civilization into the Stone Age. I want to play a little clip from the president last night because I don't know where he gets this information from, and it is defied by the entire intelligence community. I'm basing it on the assessment that Tulsi Gabbard made to Congress. Chris, number 4, please.
They were also rapidly building a vast stockpile of conventional ballistic missiles and would soon have had missiles that could reach the American homeland, Europe, and virtually any other place on Earth. Iran's strategy was so obvious. They wanted to produce as many missiles as possible, and they did, with the longest range possible. And they had some weapons that nobody believed they had. We just learned that out. We took them out. We took them all out so that no one would really dare stop them. And they raced for a nuclear bomb, a nuclear weapon like nobody's ever seen before. They were right at the doorstep.
Anybody believe that when it's defied by every intelligence analysis except the Mossad?
Well, the Mossad doesn't believe anything. It's there to transmit whatever the Israeli government wants to say. It's unfortunate that he continues to draw heavily on Israeli advice and expertise, but that's not surprising given the people that surround him. The bad news is as follows. First of all, he mentioned this arsenal of ballistic missiles. Yes, the Iranians have invested very heavily in those, precisely because they don't have a nuclear weapon. And the previous supreme leader had made it unambiguously clear that they would not build one. So they depended heavily on this arsenal of ballistic missiles and drones now to deter the Israelis from attacking them. Well, that hasn't worked. Secondly, these claims of having destroyed so many things, 90% this and 80%, well, if those things were the case, two things would be obvious. We would not witness any missile strikes from Iran. And every time someone opens their mouth and says, well, the Iranians don't have anything left, there's a major missile attack on Israel and a major missile attack on some of the Gulf Emirates.
Okay, I'm going to go to another clip, but I want you all to pay attention because this man is literally saying everything that I told you all. I want you all to pay attention. I just told you all, and this only came out an hour ago. Okay, this video came out an hour ago. So he said everything that I've been saying. I told you all that every time they lie and say, oh, we're obliterating them, their air defenses are down, their Navy's gone, da-da-da. And then here Iran comes. Let me like the video. Here Iran comes As you can see, it's from an hour ago. Okay. So I'm not copying his talking points. We just are on the same wavelength. Please pay attention. Okay. It's just common sense. All right, because I told y'all, every time they lie, Trump has a lie come out of his mouth and act like, oh, we obliterated them. They come back and they hit them hard and then post the video. So we see the truth. Okay, please pay attention. Now let's go to this clip where this is from the Times Now world. They say Hormuz test west. Okay, so inside Starmer's 40-nation plan to break Iran's grip without the U.S. Okay, so they're trying to get 40 nations together to take over the Strait of Hormuz from Iran.
The Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway carrying nearly 20% of the world's oil, is now at the center of a global crisis. Following US and Israeli strikes on Iran, Tehran has imposed a de facto blockade, choking energy flows and pushing oil prices above $100 a barrel. Now, the United Kingdom, led by Keir Starmer, is attempting to do what the United States has stepped back from: lead a 40-nation coalition to reopen the strait. The stakes are immediate. From Asia to Europe, countries are rationing fuel, cutting industrial output, and scrambling for alternatives. But this is not just an energy crisis. It is a test of whether global order can function without Washington at the center.
The UK has now brought together 35 nations around our statement of intent to push as one for maritime security across the Gulf. And today I can announce that later this week, the Foreign Secretary will host a meeting that brings those nations together for the first time, where we will assess all viable diplomatic and political measures that we can take to restore freedom of navigation, guarantee the safety of trapped ships and seafarers, and resume the movement of vital commodities. Following that meeting, we will also convene our military planners to look at how we can marshal our capabilities and make the strait accessible and safe after the fighting has stopped.
Starmer's plan hinges on
Okay, so what do you all think about that? So they're trying to get 40 nations together, okay, so they can try and come for Iran, so they can try to take over the Strait of Hormuz. You know, at the end of the day, I'm not sure that's a good idea. But now, with that being said, hold on tight, because why did this ignorant woman, what is her name? Hold on. I just saw leaked audio from Trump. Okay, I'll go to that in a second. But why did that silly woman, Paula White, compare Trump to Jesus? Okay, so MS Now did a report on that, and I'm going to go to it shortly. But first, let's hear what China has to say, because China has basically condemned the U.S. strikes on Iran's bridge. Okay? Let's get into it. And Putin is profiting so much off of this war. Okay, we're going to talk about it. Likes up, everyone. Please don't forget to like and share. Thank you in advance, beloveds. I appreciate you.
On Knesset passing death penalty law. We have taken note of the law. All legislation must conform to legal principles. such as the principle of legality, fairness, and justice, and must not discriminate on the basis of race, religion, nationality, or political view. The legitimate rights of the Palestinian people must be respected, and protected actions that escalate tensions and exacerbate confrontation must stop. On U.S. strike on Iranian bridge. The U.S.-Israeli strikes against Iran have no authorization from the UN and violate international law. China opposes attacks against civilian facilities and upholds the return to the track of dialogue and communication and refrains from further humanitarian crisis. On Afghanistan and Pakistan peace talks. Since the escalation of the Pakistan-Afghanistan conflict, China has maintained communication with all parties and provide a platform for dialogue and communication. Both Pakistan and Afghanistan welcome China's efforts. It is a good thing to have more dialogue, and now we are promoting the peace talks. If there's further and there's more common understandings in the press reports, if there is more information, we will release it. On Myanmar elections. China extends congratulations to Mr. Min Aung Hlaing on his election. As Myanmar's new president, China and Myanmar are traditional friends and close neighbors jointly building the community with shared future. China follows a policy of friendship towards all the people of Myanmar. We support the new government in maintaining peace and stability and pursuing the development of prosperity. We stand ready to work together with Myanmar to deliver on the 4 global initiatives, promote high-quality Belt and Road cooperation, and strive for more tangible outcomes in building the China-Myanmar community with a shared future to bring more benefits to our people. On claims made by Marco Rubio of China harassing Panamanian ships. The U.S. accusation is groundless and confuses right and wrong. The U.S. repeated wrong forward allegations only revealed that it seeks to take over the Panama Canal, who is blatantly undermining the neutrality of the canal and the stability of global supply chains through unilateral bullying and coercive actions. The facts are crystal clear for all to see. China's position on issues concern irrelevant Panamanian court is clear and will firmly defend its legitimate rights and interests.
Now, with that all being said, they are being called out, okay, as they should be. But let's talk about how this is all benefiting Vladimir Putin. You see, he's profiting from this Iran war primarily through the massive energy revenue windfall, okay? Now, estimates suggest Russia is raking in an extra $760 million per day. The conflict has caused global oil prices to surge above $100 per barrel due to disruptions in the Strait of Hormuz, boosting Russia's export earnings by billions. Now, the crisis in the Middle East has driven up the global prices significantly. Okay, the U.S. issued waivers allowing for the purchase of Russian oil, allowing Russia to sell more of its fuel at higher prices. See, Trump's really doing Putin a favor with his stupid self. Like, how is this not treasonous? Okay, now Russia is bypassing Western sanctions by shifting its energy exports to countries such as India and China, who pay higher prices due to market volatility. Now, with that all being said, beyond oil, Russia is also benefiting from higher prices for other exports, including coal, aluminum, and fertilizers. Because remember, I told you all that these aluminum fertilizers, okay, they come through the Strait of Hormuz. I do believe it's around 20 to 30% of this, okay, as well as the liquefied natural gas and the oil, of course. So according to reports, the conflict could generate as much as $161 billion in additional export revenue to Russia in just 3 months, significantly aiding its treasury during the ongoing war with Ukraine. Okay, are y'all paying attention? Okay, are y'all paying attention? Now, I'm not mad at Putin about this, mind you. I'm mad at Trump's stupid self. He just needs to pack it up and go home and stop trying to act like he's Mr. Tough Guy, because everybody knows by now you're just a coward. Okay, but let's go to this report by Morning Joe when they say we can't let that pass. Okay, because he's talking about Trump's spiritual advisor, Paula Wright, the whole false prophet, comparing Trump to Jesus. Like, lady, are you serious right now?
Jesus taught us so many lessons through his death, burial, and resurrection. He showed us great leadership. Great transformation requires great sacrifice. And Mr. President, no one has paid the price like you have paid the price. It almost cost you your life. You were betrayed and arrested and falsely accused. It's a familiar pattern that our Lord and Savior showed us. But it didn't end there for him, and it didn't end there for you. God always had a plan. On the third day, he rose, he defeated evil, he conquered death, hell, and the grave. And because he rose, we all know that we can rise. And sir, because of his resurrection, you rose up. Because he was victorious, you were victorious. And I believe that the Lord said to tell you this: because of his victory, you will be victorious in all you put your hand to.
Well, let me just say, as someone who grew up in the church, probably the week I came home from the hospital, that may have been one of the most grotesque, unchristlike things I've ever heard in my life. To compare any politician to Jesus Christ, it's just grotesque. She's a heretic. It certainly sounds like a heretic there, and this just is, again, it shows us what a bizarre age we are in. There are no words, and for evangelicals out there still pretending that this is normal, that would pretend that that is normal, just know I will be praying for you tonight. That was Donald Trump's spiritual advisor at a faith event on Wednesday at the White House, comparing Donald Trump to Jesus Christ. On this Good Friday and the start of the second day of Passover, we're joined by Rabbi Matthew Gewirtz and political commentator John Fugelsang. He's the host of the John Fugelsang podcast and also the author of the New York Times bestselling book, Separation of Church and Hate. You know, John, I want to talk to you about Good Friday. What an extraordinary day it is for people of real faith who actually believe in Jesus Christ and the red letters in the gospel. But it just seems like we can't let that pass. I'm reminded of all these MAGA politicians that have been saying, oh, if Jesus only had an AR-15, he wouldn't have gone to the cross, or saying all these other crazy things. And I just think about Jesus when he's being confronted by Pontius Pilate and trying to figure out what to do the day before he was crucified. And Jesus said, my kingdom, and I say this to all Christian nationalists out there. I know you haven't actually read the Bible, so if you want to read the Gospels, you can do it. But Jesus said, my kingdom is not of this world. If it were, then my followers would fight you and stop this. But my kingdom is in another place. And that is so simple. It's such a simple truth. Anybody that went to Sunday school for more than a year would understand that Jesus Christ's kingdom is not in Washington, D.C., is not in the White House, is not where these Christian nationalists are claiming it is. Jesus always said it is somewhere far away from the dirtiness of politics. Talk about that, if you will, and then let's get to actually Good Friday.
Sure. Good morning, gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be with you. And you're exactly right, Joe. You know, watching that, I'm reminded that the only way you can support both Donald Trump and Jesus is if you've never read either one of their books. Because, friends, the only things Donald Trump has in common with Jesus is that they both spent a lot of time with prostitutes and they both used ghostwriters. But the
What did he just say? What did he? So hold on, let's continue.
reality is there's a reason why this week means so much. And even for our atheist and non-Christian friends, the story alone, you don't need to take the divinity as literal fact to actually see the beauty and the power in the restoration and nonviolence of this story of Holy Week. When Jesus says to Pilate, my kingdom is not of this earth, that probably helps get him killed, because the Roman Empire killed people for less than that. He was a spark. He shows up on Sunday to begin Holy Week on Palm Sunday, not like the Romans showed up with chariots and horses and armies and gold and weapons. He shows up on a donkey and they're hailing him as a king. It's really like the greatest act of satire in the entire Bible. This homeless Jewish mystic faith healer is virtually mocking the pomp that surrounds the armies of Caesar, because you're either standing up to Caesar or you're capitulating to him, like Paula White. So by 2 days later, he's having the rebellion inside the temple, the protest, that he's flipping tables over the way that some extreme conservative religious bosses collaborated with the empire to exploit the poor. And then by Holy Thursday, the night he's arrested, he gives the greatest parable he gives, the goats and the sheep, where he says individuals and nations are going to be judged, heaven or hell, by how they care for the poor, care for the sick, welcome the stranger, and take care of those in prison. They arrest him. And by the end of the week, it's the saddest story you've ever read. It's a story of complete collapse. This guy was so much hope, and now everyone turns on him, right? His own friends sell him out. His friends deny they know him. Except for the women, everyone bails on Jesus. People who are hailing him as a king on Sunday are calling for his death by Friday. And he's brutally executed. The original innocent brown-skinned man executed by the state in the most painful and humiliating of ways. And then he comes back. And he doesn't come back for revenge. After this collapse and fear takes over, he comes back not for vengeance. He comes back for love. He forgives everyone who sold him out. He doesn't seek any kind of payback. Despair says, this is how it always is, right? Nothing changes. But the Easter story says this is how it always is, and we can still change it. If you're in despair at the state of America, I get it. The Easter story doesn't tell you to ignore that despair, but you got to remember, like, everything failed this guy. The system crushed him. And then there's another chapter, and that's the story. It doesn't mean everything's going to magically get better. It means the story's not finished, and neither are we. You don't need to believe any of the Bible as literal fact to draw incredible faith and sustenance and hope from this story and from all of Holy Week.
And you know, Reverend Al, there's this extraordinary book called Dominion that talks about, that underlines what John's saying, that Jesus Christ, when he came to this earth, was such a radical to the Romans. They didn't understand, because the people that they elevated to gods were people who would go to war, people that would kill their enemies, people that had complete dominion over all those close to them, the richest, the most powerful. What does Jesus do on Palm Sunday? He rides into town again on a donkey, almost like he's mocking. Jesus says that it's harder for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than a rich man to enter into heaven. Jesus says the richest among us is the poor widow who only had a penny and put it in the collection plate. All of these things. And as you read history, and you read, I recommend Dominion. As you read Dominion, you find out that even beyond the religious impact of Jesus and what happened on this day and this weekend, that culturally, in Western civilization especially, there was a break. There was a break from worshiping the powerful and the rich to suddenly people being concerned about the poor, concerned about charity. That had never happened before Jesus. And after, suddenly, people started looking to the poor, to the disaffected, to the outcasts, and trying to bring them in and helping them. It was a remarkable revolution, and it doesn't matter how many phony faith people that the president has around him. That doesn't change the central message of the Gospels or the importance of this day.
Not at all. You know, when I look at what John just said, which is absolutely true, one of the things John didn't mention is Jesus, on the eve of his arrest, had the Last Supper. And then he had all of his disciples line up, and he got down and he started washing each of their feet. And he even washed the feet of who would betray him, Judas, and who would deny him, Peter. And to be like Jesus is to be able to look at your adversary and still love them and give forgiveness and heal. And for Paula White to act like Donald Trump, who 3 times a day is trying to vilify or prosecute his enemies, is blasphemous. But on the other side of that, I think when you raise the point that Jesus, one of the parts of his indictment was he stirred up the masses. He was the one that the Romans were upset because he was getting the masses stirred up. Why? Because they could heal the sick, like free health care, because he was talking about miracles. He was a political opponent of what was going on just by the nurture and virtue of his ministry. So I think that nothing could be further from the truth. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed 58 years ago tomorrow. I would never compare him with Jesus. So I think that we ought to have some sense of real balance and thought, those of us in the ministry, before we start comparing somebody to our Lord and Savior.
And by the way, I'm so glad you bring up Peter and the forgiveness. You're all talking about the forgiveness of Jesus. Peter denies Jesus 3 times. Peter's the guy that when Jesus is walking on water, he says, "Let me go out with you. I want to go." Goes out and Peter freaks out. You know, Peter's the one that cuts off the guard's ear in the Garden of Gethsemane. And you can almost see Jesus going, "Oh my God, this guy. And
that's where he says the NRA's least favorite line. Put away your sword. Exactly. He who lives by the sword will die by the sword.
That's right.
Exactly. Peter was overmatched by life. And how did Jesus react to Peter? He said, "You are Peter, the rock upon which I will build my church."
Hold on, beloveds. Hold on. Let me go back to that. I'm sorry. I want to hear what the rabbi has to say. Okay, the rabbi's about to speak out. I want to hear this. Hopefully he'll condemn Satan Yahoo.
Now it's your turn. And this is such an important time. And we've had this talk several Passovers in a row. talk to us this year why Passover has such a deep meaning and why it's had such a deep meaning, not only for thousands of years, but especially for a Jewish faith and Jews under savage attack in the media, in politics, on college campuses, all across America and the world over the past 4 years. What comfort does Passover bring those in the Jewish faith this year?
Joe, thanks for having me. Reverend Al, by the way, I think we should have Joe and John both come to our pulpits because they do know how to preach. So well done, gentlemen, this morning. Really appreciated. Listen, my wife says that we Jews, in a siren to siren mentality these days, metaphorically and physically. Here, metaphorically, the siren is Bondi Beach, and the next siren is a truck full of explosives ramming into a synagogue in Michigan. In Israel, the sirens are real. They could be every 15 minutes, every half hour, every hour. No one this Passover is worried about getting their chicken soup off of their stove. They're wondering and worrying if they could get themselves into the shelter before missiles strike, and not just strike with destruction, but they could be unbelievably lethal. The uptick is not even an uptick. Significant increase in anti-Semitism has been devastating. So sitting down for a Passover Seder this year, I believe, is an act of sacred defiance. We've done it always when times have been bad, and we're doing it again. Passover table is the place where we mark this incredible history, where Pharaoh, the intransigent, egomaniacal Pharaoh, squares off with God, who finally hears after 400 years the cries of the Israelites, sends Moses as God's proxy, again to square off with Pharaoh. It takes 10 unbearable plagues to finally affect Pharaoh to allow the Jewish people, the Israelites, to go, only to relent and to come after them at the Sea of Reeds at the Red Sea. When they're coming furiously, they go into the water. It's split, as we know, from Cecil B. DeMille and other depictions. Pharaoh's army goes after them. And then as the Israelites get to the other side, the sea closes. It causes the redemption and, of course, our trek to the Promised Land. But I want to also say that history is not nearly important as the moral compass that we gain from the story. What do I mean by that? Passover Seder and Scripture itself, no less than 37 times, says to us, do not oppress the stranger. And there's a reason for that, because you were once strangers in the strange land. So if we do not come out of this with empathy, we're not going to affect change, and we cannot other anyone around us.
Rabbi Matthew, as you recount this, also Passover was the last before the children of Israel who were enslaved marched toward freedom and faced the Red Sea. And as we look at it today, when we're dealing with a rise of racism, anti-Semitism, and Islamophobia, we forget that it was the struggles that led to a lot of what we celebrate with Passover or with Easter in terms of the crucifixion of Christ. So talk about how, rather than our quarreling, fighting, and then sometimes
Okay, I've heard enough. All right, and hopefully you have too. Let's continue, because that lady knows good and well that she was doing nothing but being blasphemous when she dared to compare Trump to Jesus, okay? She knows that's exactly what she was doing. Trump is the Antichrist. If anything he is, he would be the Antichrist. Definitely no comparison to Jesus, please. Now let's go to this clip where this lady's going in on BB and is not real. Let me get my overlay.
Why we are even in Iran right now is because of Israel. This is embarrassing. We are the United States of America. Why are we allowing a foreign country to occupy our government? I was removed from a Religious Liberty Commission because I dared to speak out against Israel. It's no longer a conspiracy. What Israel wants, Israel gets. This isn't a war for America. This is a war for...
And I want you all to pay attention to Ashkan's comment. He said he has 1 foot in the grave and 1 on a roller skate. Now, do you all remember how a couple of weeks ago I said that Trump had 1 foot in the grave and the other one on a banana peel? Do y'all remember that? Okay, yeah, they do say that great minds think alike. Please pay attention, okay? But let's continue.
Israel, if this is the war they want to wage on Iran, let them send their sons and daughters. What we've gotten from Bibi Netanyahu is nothing but propaganda, and we've gotten it for decades.
Dual citizenship. They have passports to the United States of America and Israel. Why can these people be in the Pentagon and make war plans when they have a passport to Israel?
How can they be in the House? How can they be in the Senate? How can they be in the cabinet? How can you be loyal to two nations?
Treasury Department. Do you understand what you're saying? They're dual citizens and they have high-profile positions in our government. Now, this sounds crazy to me, and a lot of people don't understand that this is finally starting to come out into the public, and people are starting to really see how involved a foreign country is involved in our politics.
So can you be on the Intelligence Committee and also have a passport to a foreign country?
Where's your allegiance to?
With the Israelis, a lot of them are dual citizens. They sound like us. They don't feel foreign. We kind of go into a more complacent mode where we trust a lot of what they have to say, not keeping in the back of our mind that they have their own agenda. Talked to a number of people who have decided that they are the last of their line to serve. I'm one of those. As of right now, I hate to say this, I love this country. I am not as proud of anything as I am as my service in the Marine Corps, but I will not let my kids join because of the way that we went to war with Iran. We have gone to war on behalf of another country to further their interests. Those are not my words. The administration has said as much. Speaker of the House has said as much. When that's the case, you have reduced our military to effectively a mercenary force. There's no honor in that.
The only reason why we are even
Okay, absolutely no lies detected. Okay, and the White House did basically admit that. Rubio said it out of his own mouth. He said the reason they were at war with Iran is because they were going to strike Israel. Is that what he said? Of course it is. Okay, of course it is. Now, let's go to what this combat surgeon had to say. We're almost out of here, beloveds. We're going to go to the combat surgeon. Then we're going to go to the leaked audio where Trump's talking trash about Medicare and Medicaid, even though that has nothing to do with the war. But I just want you all to pay attention to how these silly MAGA cult members just don't even realize how bad Trump is going to do them. Okay, so anyway, with that all being said, let's get into it. Likes up, everyone, please like and share. Thank you in advance. Here we go.
Comments he made last week.
But I didn't mean it flippantly when I said, in the meantime, we'll negotiate with bombs.
It's Ken Harbaugh with the Midas Touch Network. We'll negotiate with bombs. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth just doubled down on comments he made last week about the Trump regime bombing its way to the negotiating table. I'm not naive. I know that war is, to borrow from Clausewitz, a continuation of politics by other means. But the zealousness with which Pete Hegseth talks about bombing should alarm any military professional who knows what actually happens on the receiving end. The United States, remember, killed over 100 children in the opening hours of the war with an attack on a girls' school. That was reportedly an accident, the result of bad targeting by American planners, but it should have forced some degree of humility upon the Pentagon.
Sir, that was no accident. That was absolutely done intentionally. Okay, please pay attention. Black Butterfly says, Queen, did you talk about Hegseth spending millions or billions on some food? He spent millions and billions on food? No, I talked about him trying to commit insider trading and him currently being under investigation for such, and also for his war crimes. Okay, but I'm going to look into that. Thank you for the information. I'm going to fast forward this to where the surgeon shows up.
Dr. Adam Hamawi, thanks so much for joining us today. Pete Hegseth gave a press conference in which he stated the American position on negotiations as negotiating with bombs. As someone who has been a combat trauma surgeon and later spent time in Gaza at the receiving end of one of the most devastating aerial bombardments in history, how do you react as a soldier as well to this idea of negotiating with bombs, especially when the line is delivered seemingly so flippantly?
It doesn't work. We've seen this in the past. We've seen it in Iraq. We've seen it in Afghanistan. Iraq was about shock and awe in the beginning. We bombed the hell out of them. And then we were in there for 10 years and we came out, and what we ended up with, ISIS formed after that. We destroyed a government. Nothing came into its place. And our ultimate goals were not successful. We went in for weapons, WMDs. Remember that? It's the same thing we're talking about now with the nuclear weapons. It's the same story over and over again. What we do is we spend blood and treasure and years of war, and we have our troops going in and coming back and carrying the baggage that they bring back with them and their families. And in the end, who benefits out of this? We're not safer as a country. We're not safer as a world. And all we lose as a country is our legitimacy and the prestige that we've gotten over the years of being a superpower that's supposed to be, a beacon of democracy. And we're quickly losing that.
How do you feel about the president's recent statements targeting Iranian civilian infrastructure, especially power plants, which is a tactic that Putin has unleashed on Ukraine, and we have condemned. The United States government has condemned, and now that very same government is saying we're going to do the same to Iran. As someone who has been both a military surgeon and a civilian volunteer in war zones, what are your thoughts on that kind of rhetoric coming from the United States government?
It also makes us less safe. When we enter wars, we're supposed to be following the rules of engagement and international law. And if we can't hold ourselves to account and our allies to account, then how could we ask our adversaries to do the same thing? So when we target their civilian infrastructures, when we target their hospitals, when we target things that are normally out of bounds, and then they come and do the same thing to us, we've opened the door. This is basically the Gazification of what's happening right now in Iran and in Lebanon. We're using the same tactics that Israel used there and carpet bombing the entire infrastructure, killing civilians. And we're trying to do this in Iran. It's not going to work, and it's only going to make us look worse, and the entire world is going to fall apart.
We got a ton of questions for you over on Substack when we announced that this interview was coming up. And one of them really struck a chord with me, which was, how do you, as a vet, make the distinction between supporting our military and wanting our brothers and sisters in arms who are downrange doing their jobs? How do you balance support for them against opposing what is very likely an illegal war, given the fact that there was no imminent threat, given the fact that there was no authorization from Congress? How do you juggle both of those at the same time?
So we have to separate, being critical of our administration and our government and our leaders and who's sitting in those seats. Have they served in the military? Do they understand the troops? Are they doing the right thing? Versus your fellow brothers and sisters in arms. I serve just like you. Most people are entering because they are patriotic. Like me, I entered because I wanted an education. My dad said, listen, I can't pay for college. I joined the National Guard, eventually got an ROTC scholarship. People are trying to get by and trying to do the right thing. So there's nothing wrong with supporting the troops and understanding that they're regular people just trying to do the right thing, and then looking at the leaders who are giving them bad orders, basically. And this is where we need to make the distinction. So criticizing Trump, criticizing, Hexworth, and criticizing what we're doing does not undermine our support for the actual individuals who are putting their bodies, their lives on the line, and really are just trying to, do the right thing.
I want to talk about mornings for a second. My mornings are not calm. Between the show, the reporting, the kids, I am going from the moment I'm up. And for a long time, I just white-knuckled it. No real routine, no real system, just adrenaline and whatever was in the fridge. I started paying more attention to what I was actually putting in my body every day and realized I didn't have a great answer for how I was fueling any of it. So I've been looking into what's out there. One thing that keeps coming up is mud water. Their original blend is made with cacao, chai, turmeric, and functional mushrooms, lion's mane for focus, cordyceps for natural energy, reishi and chaga for immune support. You mix it up, drink it hot or cold, and the idea is clean. What you're about to see in this trailer for the upcoming Midas Defense documentary, Drone Hunters of Kherson, is real combat footage shot by me and my crew in Ukraine. Over the past few years, I've gone back to the front again and again, embedding with Ukrainian suicide drone crews and anti-drone units from rooftops overlooking Kyiv to the Black Sea coast to trenches outside Kherson. That access didn't come easily. It took time and a level of trust that gets
Okay, you guys, keep in mind that I'm multitasking, okay? So it may take me a minute sometimes to put up the next clip. So we're going to next go to Ben Masalis from the Midas Touch talking about how Trump panics as top aides make a confession on the war. Okay, let's get into it. Just a few more clips and then we're out of here.
Donald Trump is panicking as his top aides are making stunning confessions to him. They're confessing that America is not winning this war in Iran, that this war is catastrophic. Donald Trump's chief of staff, Susan Wiles, has told all of Donald Trump's cabinet members and staff members, stop lying to him, tell him the truth about what's really going on and how much Americans hate this war, which also raises questions about Donald Trump's cognitive and physical decline as well, that Donald Trump was learning about this war from 2-minute hype reels showing the United States and Israel blowing things up. I'll get to all of this in just a moment. Other confessions being made to Donald Trump right now. Iran still has most of its ballistic missiles, most of its Shahed drones, most of its FPV drones. It has not been blown away to smithereens. It has not been decimated. Over 50% of ballistic missiles and launchers are retained, and tens of thousands of FPV and Shahed drones are retained by Iran. Other confessions that are being made, Iran is emboldened and they've been legitimized in the biggest way on the world stage, basically in Iranian history. Countries are calling Iran on a bilateral basis, trying to cut deals with it. For example, the Philippines, their leaders, they're supposed to be allied with the United States. Their leaders reaching out directly to Iranian's foreign minister, Araghchi, to cut deals in order to get crude oil from the region through the Strait of Hormuz. And Iran is setting up its diplomatic tentacles like never before as countries are looking away from the United States and they're looking to cut deals directly with Iran. It's, folks, confession after confession after confession, and as Donald Trump is trying to, process all of this, I mean, he's so deranged and such a lunatic and such a malignant narcissist that he's just, basically accelerating and escalating things. I mean, his posts last night were as deranged as ever. I mean, with Americans suffering here, psychologically tortured by the conditions in the United States, can't afford anything, can't afford rent, can't afford homes, can't afford groceries, can't afford gas. The price of crude is at record highs. I mean, you've got Donald Trump out there posting, this was his post from last night. Is Bruce Springsteen going to sue his plastic surgeon? It's a real post from Donald Trump last night. Then Donald Trump posts a photo of himself in front of the demolition site where the Golden Ballroom by the White House is supposed to be built, even though a federal judge has blocked Donald Trump's construction of the federal ballroom, the Golden Ballroom. Donald Trump post. I would like to thank the hardworking commissioners and staff of the National Capital Planning Commission who just voted overwhelmingly 8-1 to approve the magnificent White House ballroom now rising on the hallowed ground. Donald, it's not rising anymore. The judge banned it. Your commission voting 8-1 does not override the judge. The federal judge appointed by George W. Bush said that only if there's congressional authorization can this golden ballroom be built. And without congressional authorization, it's prohibited. It's banned. I mean, you're citing your own hand-picked goons who voted 8-1 to do what? They can't override what the judge did. Then Donald Trump just kept on posting photos of the ballroom yesterday, like multiple photos of the ballroom. Then he posted a photo of Davy Crockett and said, obviously, David Crockett, a distant relative of Jasmine Crockett, has a very high IQ frontiersman, would be proud of the legacy that he began long ago, and especially Jasmine Crockett's great success as a politician from the great state of Texas. President Donald J. Trump. I mean, what the hell is he talking about? And then this one is his post about the war, I guess, where it's just bragging about more war crimes. Donald Trump writes, our military, the greatest and most powerful by far anywhere in the world, hasn't even started destroying what's left in Iran. Bridges next, then electrical power plants. New regime leadership knows what has to be done and has to be done fast. And that's in caps, the word fast, exclamation point. Donald J. Trump, and this was after earlier in the day yesterday, Donald Trump posted
Okay, so we saw where he posted that video of the bridge yesterday. Trump is just a whole idiot. Now, you all were talking about Peg's breath, talking about he spent all this money on food. Okay, and you mean to tell me he spent all these millions and billions on food after they cut SNAP benefits off that time? Please make it all make sense. Hold on. Let's get into it. Because I found the clip.
We spoke about Pete Hegseth earlier, busying himself with war. His department, though, they seem to be pretty busy with a spot of fine dining as well. An analysis by government watchdog Open the Books found that the Department of War, Department of Defense as was, spent 93 billion with a B in September 2025 alone. That's the highest total spent since at least 2008.
Yeah, it's all because of something called the use it or lose it policy. If you're allocated a budget by the federal government, you have to use it. Otherwise, when more funding comes round the following year, you get less than you were allocated last time. So it got to September. The Defense Department were under budget. Instead of keeping some cash stored away, maybe for a war, they went large on the luxury items.
So we've got the list here. Are you ready?
Go for it.
$2 million on Alaskan king crab. $6.9 million on lobster tail, Hegseth's favorite, apparently. $6.9 million. $1 million on salmon. $140,000 on donuts. $140,000 on donuts. $124,000 on ice cream machines. $26,000 on sushi preparation tables. And a whopping $15.1 million on ribeye steak.
Probably take me a week and a half to polish that off.
Yeah, it goes on as well. Not just food, James. $1.8 million on musical instruments. $100,000 on a grand piano for the Air Force Chief of Staff's home. $26,000 on a violin. Not sure who that was for. And $22,000 on a custom-made, handmade Japanese flute.
No.
Okay, that's absolutely nefarious. Okay. That is absolutely crazy. These people make no sense. Okay, so anyway, with that all been said, listen, 2 more clips. Okay, we're going to go to the last 2, and then we're out of here because, the guys, I have to come back later on tonight, probably around 9 or 9:30. Okay, we're going to be talking about cannibalism and these devils that are eating people. Okay, and I'm going to bring receipts. All right, let's get into it.
What happens if a soldier chooses not to deploy? All right. So I have said, I think it's going to be really, really hard for Donald Trump to convince even active duty soldiers and service members to go die in Iran, right? There's no mission for this war. It would be a highly, highly kinetic and high casualty war for the United States, something that we have not experienced since the war in Vietnam. So what happens is they go to jail. The worst case thing that happens is you go to jail. If you refuse to do your deployment, or if you just go AWOL at all, absent without leave, they can send you to a military jail until the end of your term. So somewhere under 4 years, they would be going to jail. Probably under 2 years, because if they're already trained and in their unit, their initial enlistment is likely on, like, in its way of being done. Has taken a few years. I don't know why that was so hard for me to say, but maybe they just signed up for an additional 4 to 6 years. Yeah, they might go to jail, and they would probably get a dishonorable discharge. First of all, you get paid while you're in military jail, at least until you are discharged. And I know that that's a big deal, right? Civilians will say, oh, well, people don't want to go to jail. People don't want to have a dishonorable discharge following them around. It's not worse than dying. Why did people used to go to war by force? Well, it used to be deploy or we'll shoot you in the head. We don't have that kind of military anymore. And we have such a highly technological military that you really don't want people there who've had to be there by force. As we spoke about Vietnam, there was this thing called fragging, people killing their officers because they did not want to be there. Really hard to force people to go to war, especially if large numbers of them are against it. All of this stuff, what would happen to them? That's on an individual basis. If huge numbers of your unit are saying they're not going, there's not going to be very much the military can do. I'm Daniela Mestinek-Young, scholar of cults, extreme groups, and extremely bad leadership, former captain.
Okay, and listen, here's the thing. There are some soldiers who are absolutely quitting. And also on yesterday, it came to my attention, and I did fact check this, mind you, that there were some reports of soldiers intentionally taking illegal substances, specifically Mary Jane, okay, to fail mandatory rug test, okay, as a form of silent mutiny to avoid deployment in active conflict zones. Soldiers have sometimes preferred a dishonorable or involuntary discharge over risking their lives in conflicts they do not support. Okay, and I don't blame them. This is what they should be doing. But hey, some of them are absolutely using stimulants like Coca-Cola as well. Okay, so they can just just not have to go to war. Now, with that all being said, I know I told you all there was one more clip after this. I said 2 more, but I forgot about the leaked audio. Okay, let's go to the leaked audio of him saying that they don't have time for Medicaid and Medicare. They only have time for war. And the states need to handle that themselves, not the government.
Very instructive clip. I want to note that the only reason we have it is because the White House seemingly accidentally posted a live stream of it, which they then tried to delete, but not before the internet saved it for posterity. And just for context, Donald Trump starts by referring to the head of the Office of Management and Budget, the Christian nationalist author of Project 2025, Russell Vought.
We can't take care of daycare. We're a big country. We have 50 states. We have all these other people. We're fighting wars. We can't take care of daycare. You got to let a state take care of daycare, and they should pay for it, too. They should pay. They have to raise their taxes, but they should pay for it. We have to take care of one thing, military protection. We have to guard the country.
All right. All these little scams that have taken place, like that little scam daycare. Joining me now is Democratic Senator Chris Van Hollen, member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, good to see you. Thank you for being.
Okay, so I'm going to move on from that. Now, this last clip, I haven't watched it. I just saw it and thought maybe we should take a look because hopefully we'll find it funny, I guess. Okay, let's get into it.
Economic time bomb, literally made of shit. The Strait of Hormuz.
The story of Lil Donnie creating an economic time bomb, literally made of shit. The Strait of Hormuz is the little problem that Donnie was too stupid to see coming. Gas prices have spiked, and therefore everything has spiked. But that's just the first wave. The second wave is a time bomb. A time bomb made of shit. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, and the UAE produce fertilizer using their natural gas, ship it through the Strait of Hormuz, and off to U.S. farmers just in time for spring planting. This generates about 35% of the world's fertilizer, all traveling through a very small choke point that is controlled by Iran. Now we've already seen a 4% jump in food prices, and we're likely to see another 5% in the coming weeks. However, if corn and soy do not get the proper amount of fertilizer by the end of this month, food price in America will, without any doubt, jump to 20% by September. Bread was around $2 a loaf and will reach nearly $3 by September. A pound of ground beef was around $5 in January and will likely reach $7 by the fall. Coffee was roughly $9 a pound and will reach $12 a pound by September. Here's the really terrible thing. We've likely already crossed this deadline, even if right now, today, the moment you're watching this, the Strait opened up. The logistics of moving that much material through the Strait would take weeks and an additional month just to cross the globe. We may already be very, very fucked. He will then try to blame everyone else, but this is 100% his doing. Something he decided to do because he had a gut feeling. But the only gut feeling you're going to have is the taste of starvation.
Okay, and so we're going to close it up at this point. I want to thank you all for tuning in. Okay, please be sure to like and share the video if you could. And also, don't forget to tune in later between 9 and 10. I'm going to make it 9 and 10 because I will be back. And like I said, we're going to be talking about these elite devils who engage in cannibalism. Okay, and so with that all being said, everyone enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy your strong end, not the weak end, leaving you in a weakened state of mind. And until next time, beloveds, each one teach one. That's how we grow and thrive. Do something productive, constructive, but never destructive. And always remember, beloveds, to keep the Most High first in your lives. Until next time, peace.
Yeah. You crossed the ocean just to find your grave. Sacrifice your own boys for a lie. Listen. Yeah. Yeah. Make America great again. Yo, Tails, this shit crazy. Yeah. Make America great again now. You would see what happens, yeah. Watch this. Sacred defense, we protecting the soil. While you sacrifice soldiers to pay for your spoil. You first who ran the blow, sitting on your throne. Now we turning every base into a bed of stone. It's a slaughterhouse, a trap you couldn't see. Welcome to the graveyard of your vanity. The secrets are leaking. The pressure is rising. We locked on the target. And now you are hiding. LOSCR. Yeah, we spelling at your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a pucker while you shaking in your sweet. LOSCR. Taste the ash of defeat. LOSCR. Yeah, we spelling at your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a pucker while you shaking in your sweet. LOSCR. Taste the ash of defeat. In your suit, hiding Epstein's ghost. You sent your boys to die on the bloody coast. Not a revenge for the leader's blood is purely mine. Every drop of his blood is a missile on the line. You thought you took him out, thought the fire was dead, but another common day is standing ahead. Yeah, you strike one down, we just shatter your brain. We put another in the list. Common day again. The secrets are leaking. The pressure is rising. We locked on the target. And now you are hiding. LOSCR. Yeah, we spelling out your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a puppet while you shaking in your sweet. LOSCR. Taste the ash. LOSCR. Yeah, we spelling out your name. Send them to the slaughter, you the only one to blame. Bleeding for a puppet while you shaking in your sweet. LOSCR. Taste the ash of defeat. Sacred defense of the homeland. Sacred defense of the homeland.